Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. The extreme cold warning continued for much of southwestern Alberta. AHS officials offered some tips on how to best protect yourself from the frigid cold temperatures. The bitterly cold weather and huge dumps of snow have caused flight delays and cancellations at a number of airports. And former Reform Party leader Preston Manning is calling on witnesses to testify at a citizen-led inquiry into Canada's response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. The extreme cold temperatures we've been experiencing lately across much of southwestern Alberta can affect people quite quickly, including the risk of frostbite and hypothermia. Officials from Alberta Health Services offered up some tips on how to best protect yourself from these dangerous situations when you're out braving the cold winter weather.
We always ask people to dress in several layers of clothing and just ensure that internal layers are covering the body and are soft, and there are several layers of those. The most vulnerable areas of human body to frostbite and to hypothermia are earlobes and nose and face, cheeks, fingertips and toes. So it's very important to pay special attention to your shoes and try to cover your hands with gloves and also cover your face with something it can protect from cold weather, such as scarf.
Officials from AHS also warned about frost snip, which is extremely cold but not yet frozen skin. You can move to a warmer environment and gently take the chill off the affected area through skin-to-skin contact. While the extreme cold warning continues for much of southwestern Alberta, in fact, it's been colder in Lethbridge at times the past couple of days than in Siberia, Russia. Jeanette Rocher is now with an early peek at the forecast. Jeanette, how long will this cold snap supposed to last?
You know, Hal, let's just get to the end of the week, and that's when we're going to be seeing temperatures much more seasonable, like on Friday, -10, into Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and Boxing Day. We're going to be seeing the pluses. But for now, we are sitting in this extreme cold front with wind chill values of -40 or colder, like tonight, overnight low of -30. But with the wind chill, we're looking at -44. Into Wednesday, -27 for a high. But with wind chill, -43. And extreme risk of frostbite as well. So stay safe, stay warm. I will be back later in the show to tell you about this much anticipated warm front that is coming our way.
Nice to hear about a reprieve. Thanks so much, Jeanette. Vancouver International Airport says it's dealing with a large amount of flight cancellations. Officials are working to deplane passengers safely and deliver luggage to them in the terminal. Metro Vancouver was hit with up to 25 centimeters of snow, forcing the airport to temporarily suspend all incoming and outgoing flights on Tuesday. Snow, extreme cold, and Arctic outflow warnings are in effect in the province. The blast of winter weather has also forced BC ferries to cancel a host of sailings earlier today due to poor visibility. You know, a number of travel consultants have been inundated with clients calling about delayed or canceled flights at airports in Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton. Tracy Hamilton, a travel agent with Inspired Vacations in Lethbridge, says this has been a tough time all around for both travelers and agents alike.
So I'm really thankful today. I had some folks who were heading off on a cruise and they took a red eye, which nobody really enjoys red eyes, but they did. So they thankfully got to where they needed to go. And but now what we're seeing is, the West is just a challenge, and we've got some people heading out on bigger flights. So you know, it's not just if it's one flight that's affected, but that affects everything down the road. So, so everyone's trying and they'll get there. It just might not be today.
Recent polls say 3 out of every 4 Canadians felt harmed by the COVID-19 pandemic response, and Canadians want their voices heard. Former Reform Party leader Preston Manning offered an update on an organization of an independent citizen-led inquiry into Canada's response to the COVID-19 pandemic at all government levels. He outlined the tentative schedule of hearings and locations. Manning also discussed the call for witnesses to testify about the impacts of COVID-19 public health measures.
What we're looking for is witnesses to testify as to the impacts of these measures on their personal and family lives, personal stories. But we're also looking for expert testimony, particularly from experts whose alternative medical narratives or alternative scientific narratives were ignored or even censored during the time of the pandemic.
Manning, who one time was the federal opposition leader, is helping to spearhead the proposed 7-city inquiry through a citizens group chaired by him. A new report says costs in the Canadian Senate have skyrocketed 70% since the Trudeau Liberals took office. It's an increase that some say is unacceptable given the number of senators has remained the same. Now, to talk about how much this is costing taxpayers is Franco Terrazzano, who's the federal director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. He joins us now from Ottawa. Franco, if there are not many new senators, where's the money going?
Well, that's a great question. And it's the ballooning bureaucracy. That's the issue. The number of bureaucrats in the Senate has gone up by more than 30% in 5 years. And you know what? We need to see leadership from the top, but we're not seeing it. Right now, a senator makes about $165,000 a year. But during the pandemic, when everyone else was struggling, when people lost work, lost pay, or lost their business, senators took 3 pay raises. So a senator now is making about $10,600 more than they were pre-COVID. So we should be seeing leadership at the top, but we're not seeing it from senators.
The body of senators that governs the upper house adopted a budget recently that will cost Canadian taxpayers how much?
$127 million in 2023. Now, really, are they really providing taxpayers with $127 million worth of value? Should the Senate's budget really have gone up 70% in 7 years? You know, I think most Canadians right now who are struggling to afford Christmas toys or struggling to afford groceries or gasoline would find this unacceptable.
Thanks so much, Franco. That was Franco Terrazzano, Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, joining us from Ottawa. The Alberta government confirmed today that beginning January 1st, it'll be suspending the full provincial fuel tax for 6 months. That will give Albertans a savings of 13 cents per litre on gas and diesel until June of next year. That means if you drive a pickup truck and fill up once a week, you'll save an average of around $440 over the next half a year. And if you drive a car or an SUV, that translates to up to $300 in savings. Officials say in July, the program will return to the current system of providing fuel tax relief based on the price of West Texas Intermediate oil. Police have confirmed that 3 of the 5 people killed in a shooting at a Toronto area high-rise were members of the condo board. Authorities identified the suspect and the gunman as a 73-year-old building resident who used a semi-automatic handgun on his victims before being shot dead by police.
He's been identified as Francesco Villi. In terms of identifying the 5 deceased victims, we've been notified that the Office of the Chief Coroner will be confirming their identities, and we're not yet permitted to release their names through the Coroner's Office. We can tell you that there were 3 adult males and 2 adult females. A 6th victim, a 66-year-old woman, was seriously injured and remains in hospital. And as a victim, we'll be protecting her identity. Police were called to the building behind me for shooting in progress at approximately 7:20 p.m. last night. The man was pronounced deceased at about 8 p.m. I don't believe there was an exchange of gunfire. I don't have information on that. I believe it was one officer who fired at the man, and he was killed. The man was using a semi-automatic handgun.
I know the man. I know the board of directors. I know this has been brewing for a long time. And I've commented to my wife several times this is going to end very badly.
One person is in hospital following a house fire on 20th Street North here in Lethbridge on Monday. Lethbridge fires say it happened in the 2400 block at around 6:40 p.m. Sean Folk, platoon chief with Lethbridge Fire, says the victim was transported to hospital in critical condition.
We tagged a hydrant and crews went in and do a primary search and fire suppression. And they found somebody on the 2nd floor. Middle-aged gentleman, unconscious. He was extricated out of the building and taken right to an EMS unit. And there he was, medical care was given to him, taken to the hospital, got him to the hospital, still with vitals and sustaining life, unconscious. Once he got there, they stabilized him as best they could.
The cause of the fire is still under investigation, and damage is estimated to be around $500,000. The Alberta Serious Incident Response Team has reached a landmark goal. The group is on track to close more files than it took in 2022, which is a first in the agency's 14-year history. ACERT investigates serious issues where police officers may have caused serious injury or death. They also look into allegations of police misconduct. Officials from the agency say the closest they came to closing more files than they took in was back in 2018, breaking even and clearing 70 files over that year. With Christmas and New Year's just around the corner, the potential of impaired drivers hitting the streets could increase. MAD, which stands for Mothers Against Drunk Driving, is ramping up its message about the dangers of drinking and driving. The vice president of the Lethbridge and area chapter shares some alarming stats about the number of people killed or injured annually from impaired drivers.
Hundreds of people are killed and thousands are injured in crashes that involve alcohol, cannabis, or other drugs. Like in 2019, 87,000 federal charges and provincial license suspensions were issued. If you do the average, that's like 10 every single hour. And let me tell you something that I keep on saying is even one death is too many, especially when we know that it was 100% preventable if we did the right thing.
Chow Russia will also offer up tips for staying safe on the roads during the busy holiday season with BCN's Jeanette Rocher. Watch for it coming up after Business News. The Indigenous Recovery Coaching Program have been putting together Christmas holiday care packages for some of the most vulnerable here in our city. They include some treats, socks, hand warmers, and naloxone kits. Now, an official from the initiative says elementary school kids have been getting involved with bundling of packages and explains the importance behind it.
I wanted to include the school students just as their next generation coming up. And to me, it's very important that the next generation has kindness and compassion, give a beat that's in towards those who are struggling in our communities and just continue to give a lending hand to those.
Shot Both Sides says this is the second year they've been putting together the care packages. A new poll by Leger says most Canadians prefer to say Merry Christmas as opposed to the more secular term Happy Holidays, and that includes many non-Christians. The study found that 92% of respondents who did not grow up in a Christian household are not offended by the Merry Christmas greeting. That's good to hear. Overall, around 70% of Canadians are more likely to greet others with Merry Christmas during the holiday season. Most Canadians, around 58%, want to keep the public holiday schedule centered on Christmas as a Canadian tradition. The poll also found that 51% of respondents in Atlantic Canada and 52% in Saskatchewan and Manitoba believe that religion is very important. Well, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas in our neck of the woods. The Lethbridge Corn Maze is hosting Christmas on the Farm. It's an amazing Christmas light display that'll be shining bright during the holidays. As BCN's Micah Quinn explains now, this is the first time in 2 years that the event will be back, and officials say they're excited to welcome back lots of visitors.
The joyful tunes of Christmas are set up to help welcome the public to the Lethbridge Corn Maze for Christmas on the Farm. Theo Slingerland, the owner of the farm, says there is a laundry list of fun activities for families to enjoy during the multiple days of events.
So we have light displays. Some of them are synchronized on music. Some of them are in there's one hedge maze that's all the way lit up, and also a pallet maze that's lit up. We have displays outside and also inside. We have some animals outside and some animals inside. We have a couple little lambs inside that people can spend some time with. We usually have a bonfire, and we do hay rides whenever the weather is not super cold.
You might be wondering just exactly how many lights are laid out on the farm.
I started counting one time, but I gave up after 5 hours. I have no idea. It's tens of thousands, but I'm not sure how many there are. There's quite a few.
Christmas on the Farm was cancelled for the last 2 years due to the pandemic. The weather will also have a huge impact on attendance this time of year as extreme temperatures continue to plague our city.
So we are excited to share our farm in more than one way, not only in the summer or fall, but also now in the wintertime.
For a full list of dates for Christmas on the Farm, you can visit the Lethbridge Corn Maze on Facebook. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Looks like a lot of fun. A government official with Lethbridge County is leaving for Medicine Hat. Ann Mitchell, who is the Chief Administrative Officer for the county, has accepted a new role as City Manager with the City of Medicine Hat. Mitchell originally joined the county as CAO back in 2018 after working in a similar capacity in Sioux Lookout, Ontario. Mitchell has close to 25 years of municipal government experience. She'll remain with Lethbridge County until the end of January. The search for a new CAO will begin in early 2023. The Alberta government is facing a lawsuit from the Onion Lake Cree Nation over the province's new Sovereignty Act. Officials from the First Nations say the province made no effort to consult with the community and that the act is offensive to the spirit and intent of Treaty 6. The Alberta Sovereignty within the United Canada Act was passed last week and has been heavily criticized by a number of Indigenous groups. The Onion Lake Cree Nation is seeking a declaration from the Court of King's Bench that the act infringes on treaty rights and is of no force and effect. The Saskatchewan government says the province has offered jobs to 161 Filipino healthcare workers under its Health Human Resources Action Plan. Health Minister Paul Merriman recently led a delegation to the Philippines in an attempt to hire healthcare workers. The government launched the action plan in hopes of adding more than 1,000 employees to its healthcare system. That will include hundreds of workers who are to be recruited over the next couple of years. The province says more than 600 applications have been received from internationally educated healthcare workers. Manitoba's opposition NDP says the province should spend extra equalization money that is coming next year on healthcare. New federal figures say Manitoba is forecast to see its equalization payments from the federal government jump by $577 million beginning next April. In addition to improving healthcare, NDP leader Wab Kinew says the government should use the money to reach a collective agreement with allied health professionals. The equalization increase for Manitoba is far bigger than any annual jump in recent memory. It comes at a time when the province has been racking up deficits every year since 2009, with the exception of a small surplus back in 2019. While the extreme cold warning continued for much of southwestern Alberta, the frigid cold temperature should remain, but only for the short term. Complete weather details are on deck. You know, it is very cold when your city has been colder than Siberia, Russia. Jeanette Rocher is here now with all of the weather details. Jeanette, the extreme cold warning may continue for just a few more days, not just here in Lethbridge, but throughout much of the province.
Yeah, it's true, Hal. All across the province, we've been stuck in this extreme cold. It's going to last most of the week into the weekend when we see that warming trend. And, you know, I had to laugh this morning because the Alberta hotspot was minus 27. So that tells you just how cold it has been across the province. Into tomorrow, Wednesday, we are looking also at a high of minus 27. It's going to feel more like minus 43, though, with that wind chill. Into Thursday, minus 23, the high, getting a little bit better there. But then look at that. Friday, more seasonable, minus 10 the high, periods of snow expected as well. And then into the holiday weekend, Saturday being Christmas Eve, 4 degrees the high, 5 for Sunday and Monday, which is of course Christmas Day, and Boxing Day. Lovely plus temperatures there. Okay, so the average low, for the average high rather for this time of year, minus 1, the average low, minus 13. 14 was our high temperature on this day back in 1954, and in 1951 it was minus 35, which was the coldest. Sun rose this morning at 8:25. Sun set this afternoon 4:33, giving us 8 hours and 8 minutes of daylight. Tomorrow, Wednesday, is actually our winter solstice, meaning today was still fall. It was the last day of fall today. Winter doesn't start until tomorrow. Victoria sitting at minus 3 tomorrow. Sunshine there. Minus 10 the high in Vancouver. Vancouver under an Arctic outflow warning with strong outflow winds and extreme wind chill. Minus 25 in Edmonton tomorrow and minus 26 in Calgary. Both of those cities looking at the minus 40s with the wind chill, extreme cold, risk of frostbite in minutes. Same thing for the rest of these prairie cities under an extreme cold warning. Minus 23 the high in Saskatoon, minus 24 in Regina, minus 22 in Winnipeg. Of course, feeling much colder with that wind chill in all three of those cities. Also looking at flurries as well as we look to the central part of the country. Toronto sitting at 1 degree tomorrow with sunshine, actually a UV index as well, minus 7 only for the wind chill. But looking at a winter storm warning for the weekend for all of those cities, actually. Ottawa and Montreal sitting at much warmer temperatures tomorrow, but also expecting that holiday storm by this weekend. 0 the high in Fredericton tomorrow, 3 in Halifax, 1 in Charlottetown, and 1 degree the high in St. John's, Newfoundland, with expecting some flurries there as well. So there you have it. That is your forecast.
Today's weather report is brought to you by Ridge Utilities, providing competitive rates for electricity, natural gas, and internet, while investing back in communities across southern Alberta.
Retail sales posted their biggest increase in 5 months in October. Stats Canada reports sales rose 1.4% to $62 billion. The number got a boost from higher sales at gas stations and food and beverage stores. The preliminary estimate for November points to a 0.5% drop in retail sales. Teck Resources Limited has reached a deal to sell its closed Quintet steelmaking coal mine in northeastern British Columbia. Teck says Conuma Resources will pay $120 million in cash for the mine, plus an ongoing 25% net profits interest royalty payable after Conuma recovers its investment in Quintet. The Quintet mine is located near Tumbler Ridge, BC, and was in operation for 18 years until Teck closed it back in 2000. Teck has been managing the mine in a care and maintenance phase since that time. The sale is still subject to regulatory approval and is expected to close in the first quarter of next year. Porter Airlines announced a series of route and frequency expansions across much of North America. The Toronto-based airline has made a series of announcements for new flights to Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Ottawa, and Montreal from Mississauga's Pearson Airport. It also announced the expansion of routes from Ottawa to New York City, Boston, Quebec City, and Thunder Bay. Officials say the expansion is part of Porter's plan to offer high-quality economy flights on a broader scale at a time when many other airlines have to cut back. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 106 points on the day to finish at 19,306. The Dow was up 92 points to 32,849. The S&P 500 was up 3 points on the day to 3821, and the Nasdaq was up a single point to 10,547. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up 90 cents to 76.09 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 50 cents to 5.35 US. Gold was down a cent to 18.1793 US an ounce. And silver was even on the day at 24.16 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $12.06 per bushel, barley's at $9.54, canola's at $19, and corn is at $11.61 per bushel. Live cattle were down 23 cents to $155.05. Feeder cattle were down $1.53 to $183.63, and lean hogs February contract was down $1.45 to $84.25. The Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to 73.46 US. Recapping one of our top stories, the extreme cold warning for Lethbridge and much of southwestern Alberta continued on Tuesday. Temperatures hovered around -27 throughout most of the day, not including wind chill values. Frostbite can occur within a matter of minutes when temperatures are this extreme. Fortunately, a warming trend is on the way. On Saturday, we should see a high of +4, and on Christmas Day, the mercury should climb to about 5 degrees. You know, this is the time of year when Canadians get together to celebrate the Christmas holiday season. But sometimes that includes those who drink and drive. Coming up, we chat with an official with Mothers Against Drunk Driving who explains how they're doing their part to help keep people safe during the Christmas holiday season. Listen, if you see news happening in your community, be sure to drop us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. We'd love to hear from you.
Here's today's Bridge City News community calendar. Lethbridge Shakespeare Performance Society is sprinkling some holiday magic with a Christmas classic of Shakespearean proportions. On Wednesday, December 21st, beginning at 7 p.m. at Casa, Charles Dickens and William Shakespeare take center stage with a theatrical reading of A Christmas Carol, along with performances of holiday songs by local musicians and favorite scenes from Shakespearean plays. Plus, enjoy delicious Victorian treats with hot cider. Get into the Christmas spirit and purchase your tickets for this holiday event at Casa. For details, visit the Lethbridge Shakespeare Performance Society's Facebook page. Big Brothers Big Sisters in Lethbridge is looking for volunteers to mentor children and youth in their various programs. Volunteers commit to one visit per week for 1 year. They have many kids that are looking for a big brother or sister. Make a difference in a child's life and start something big. To apply, visit lethbridge.bigbrothersbigsisters.ca. And for more information, call 403-328-9355. And that's today's Bridge City News Community Calendar.
Education about the dangers of impaired driving continues to increase, but the problem has not been solved just yet. Joining me today to discuss this is San Chaurasia, the Vice President of the Lethbridge and Area Chapter of MAD, which of course stands for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Welcome to Bridge City News, San. So great to have you on today.
Thank you, Jeanette.
I was going to say, maybe you can first of all maybe explain what the focus of your organization is. What kinds of services do you offer here in Southern Alberta? I think most of us have heard of MAD. You said that you weren't even familiar with them up until a couple years ago when you found out a little bit more and you kind of were hooked on it.
Yes. So again, at MAD, our focus is to basically support the victim of this violent crime and to stop impaired driving. Now, how do we do it? We basically accomplish this by offering our support system to the people who are impacted by impaired driving, right? Again, 2 years ago, I was not aware of this because a system like this did not exist in my home country. But when luckily I came across, I have dedicated my volunteer hours to do the right thing and create the awareness, right? Now, MAD, like again, on online support group, we have a variety of option and a lot of diversity to help support the victims who are impacted by impaired driving. In Alberta South, actually, we are lucky and fortunate to have a trained victim support volunteer who is able to provide in-person court support and is like she works in liaison with public prosecutor to help guide the family to navigate around our court system. Even like, again, we provide all the support, and even the case is completed, we still stay in touch. That does not finish our work. We are still in continuous touch. And we offer this support system to those people as long as they wish to access it. Now, a lot of us might think like, hey, it does not impact a lot of us. And let me tell you, like a few years ago, we established Alberta Memorial Monument to basically pay a tribute to people who have been killed by impaired drivers. Currently, it's etched with names of 61 people who have been killed in impaired driving. And we know that is a very small fraction of victims in our province. We also create awareness through our school programs for youth. This is where we come out, we kind of teach them, we create awareness through education about the dangers of impaired driving and the consequences, right? And this is suitable for grade 7 to 12. So we basically want to build a foundation of safe and sober driving at that young age before they enter adulthood. We also work with businesses. We do presentations of them. So basically, any business that want our chapter to come out and do a presentation for them, we would happily show them what the services we offer and the support system that we have. And in a way, we are very fortunate to partner with our local law enforcement, especially during the holidays, but throughout the year with our Checks Stop program, which you might have at times heard that we do with Lethbridge Police Services, right? So yeah, basically we are trying to create that awareness in our society. And as I said earlier, like even if we can prevent one death, that is a mission accomplished.
Absolutely. And then it has such a ripple effect as well, because one person that was affected, I mean, they have an entire family and loved ones around them. And like you said, going into the schools, I'm pretty sure that's where I first heard about MAD, when I was back in grade school with those presentations. But I didn't know that they also follow through with the victims' families and help them through the court system in just those very, very challenging times. That's absolutely amazing. Now, San, if we've never personally been victims of impaired driving, it may be difficult to fully understand that impact that something like that could have on someone, and also on the lives of their family. So maybe share a bit about that, because we were talking about that ripple effect.
Yes. So a lot of time, yes, we as a human being, we have that tendency. If it's not I have never felt it, it's not my problem. I don't see it happening a lot. And as I said, like that Alberta Memorial Monument that we established just a couple of years ago and has 61 names to it, right? So that tells us all of us are impacted one way or other with this violent crime, right? Where people are doing impaired driving. For me personally, as I said, 12 years ago, I lost my dad in a violent crash. To this date, I don't know if the driver on the other side was impaired or he was careless or anything. He just fled the scene and never to be caught. But what I meant to say is, like, when I came to know about this organization 2 years ago, I was thrilled, because as a victim, 12 years ago, this would mean a lot. Like, we were already going through the worst time of our lives, and we did not know where to go, how to get things done. And this is where, when I knew like there is something like this in Canada, I was like really excited that I want to make that difference. I want to educate people, like, this is not right. We can stop it. And as I said, like, for me, the agenda that I have, if I can make one person do the right thing, I think the time is well spent.
Absolutely. Nobody should have to go through that, and I'm so sorry for you and for the rest of your family that you did. That's absolutely terrible. But San, how many people are killed or injured annually from impaired drivers? Do you have any statistics there?
So in terms of again, hundreds of people are killed and thousands are injured in crashes that involve alcohol, cannabis, or other drugs. Like in 2019, 87,000 federal charges and provincial license suspensions were issued. If you do the average, that's like 10 every single hour. And let me tell you something that I keep on saying is, even one death is too many, especially when we know that it was 100% preventable if we did the right thing.
Oh, absolutely. Now, you did a survey recently which showed that young males continue to have a higher than average rates of driving after consuming alcohol or cannabis or other drugs. So what needs to happen to change this?
So with that one, you're right. Actually, impaired driving happens across all age group, and you'll be surprised seeing the numbers. But yes, over like consistently, if we see an age group, the young males 18 to 34 are more vulnerable because they are doing the impaired driving, and while they are aware of it, and that is definitely a huge concern. And this is where I honestly think the best thing is still going through awareness, education system, and talking to these young people, because the things are changing every day. And if we can talk to these people in the way they understand, and it kind of clicks or brings the light in their mind, like, oh, this is not right, I need to change, right? That would be the way. Like, we need to motivate them to change the behavior. And this is where MAD Canada, one of the ways MAD Canada is trying to address this concern is through our school program, which is, again, updated every year to include the impaired driving issues faced by teenagers. And we are going to school, educating these kids before they enter adulthood. So they have this, a foundation of safe, sober driving, and they're proud of it that they bring into their adulthood.
Okay. Now, that same survey also revealed that we still have some misperceptions about the seriousness of driving after consuming alcohol or cannabis. Can you share the findings?
And I was extremely surprised by that finding too. Like, to be honest, I was like, when I was reading it, I'm like, wow, that this is like new. Because again, this is where we are thinking with all the awareness and stuff, things are changing. So basically, what that survey did find is 3 in 10 Canadians believe there is a huge difference between driving after consuming alcohol versus driving after consuming cannabis, meaning they mistakenly perceived driving after consuming cannabis is not risky.
Wow.
And at the same time, 1 in 10 Canadians believe that driving after consuming alcohol, cannabis, or other drug is not that risky. And that's where, as I said, it's heartbreaking that after all that we have made the progress, and after all the educational programs and stuff, there is unfortunately still a lot of people who believe this misconception, and they go behind the wheel knowing that they are impaired. And a lot of people are still doing that, not only putting themselves at risk, but putting others at risk.
In Canada, overall, have impaired driving incidents decreased, or are we improving in any way in that department?
Again, if we just talk about the numbers of suspension. So in 2019, as I said, we had 87,000 federal charges and provincial license suspensions altogether, versus, which is like definitely a little lower than 98,000 in 2010. So I personally think it's not a huge, significant increase. But if we look at the big picture, and I'm like professionally, I'm a planner, so I always say look at the big picture. When we look at the big picture, in the last 25 years, the number of these charges has significantly dropped. And this is because people are aware, and a lot of people are doing the right thing. They are keeping the driving and drinking or consuming alcohol or cannabis, they are keeping it separate. So this is where I think there is a lot that has happened and the progress has been made. But at the same time, our work, educating people, creating that awareness is not done. And this is why MAD Lethbridge and area is here to help.
Incredible. Okay, so one of the ways that you're trying to get the message across is Project Red Ribbon. Really quickly, because we're almost out of time. So what is this project and how can people participate?
So Project Red Ribbon, we are in our 35th anniversary, and it is one of our biggest fundraiser. So basically, Project Red Ribbon is where we ask people to do a small donation and to show solidarity and support, a commitment that they are going to always drive sober, but also to pay respect and tribute to people who have lost their life with impaired driving, right? And basically this red ribbon, you can put it on your vehicle, on your purse, wallet, briefcase, keychain to show that support. It's a small but very powerful symbol, right? And these days, again, a lot of these new vehicles do not have that wide antenna. So we use this. This is called a window cling, and it goes from inside the window to like on your car, right? So this is, as I said, we are here to make that continuous support. And a lot of time, if you need a project like a red ribbon or something, you can connect with us with our website, social media platform like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But on top, if you happen to go through one of our check stop, you can get one from our volunteer who will be out there helping Lethbridge Police Service this festive season.
Okay, well, you just mentioned the festive season, so of course we are upon the holiday season right now, and with lots of parties where there's going to be drinking. So if our viewers do end up at a party with alcohol, can you maybe remind all of us about planning ahead to prevent that impaired driving from happening?
Okay, and you're right. Like Christmas is all about like getting together and stuff. So one thing I would suggest is always plan ahead, right? If you know you're going to drink or consume cannabis or anything else, I would suggest plan ahead, have a sober ride home, or have a taxi pre-booked. And as a guest, I would say make sure when you are letting your guest out and get behind the wheel that they are not impaired. If possible, again, a lot of time we have family and friends, so take their keys, keep it safe, and if possible, offer them a sober ride home or let them stay overnight.
Offer them a ride or offer them a place to stay to lay their weary heads. There you go. Thanks so much for your time today, son. Appreciate having you on.
No, thank you again, Jeanette. Thank you for having me and giving us a platform to put our word out there. So again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and everybody drive safe. And I would say again, if possible, keep driving and drinking extremely separate.
Good advice. Thanks so much for all the education there. San Charashia is the Vice President of the Lethbridge and Area Chapter of MAD, which is Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
It seems like so many voices are calling our attention either one way or the other. The recent strict gun control laws attempted by the Trudeau Liberals have caused quite a stir here in Canada. Now, to talk about it in a little more detail and some of these gun laws is a local hunting guide, Andre Van Hilton of Willow Creek Outfitters, joining us just outside of Stavely, Alberta. Andre, welcome to Bridge City News.
Thank you, Hal.
So, Andre, what are your thoughts on Bill C-21 and the impact on a lot of sport shooters and hunters?
Well, you know, it's a challenging one for sure. You know, this is it just seems like it's been something that, you know, they've constantly wanted, been taking things, you know, from the firearms owner, and it just seems like they're just not really directly, you know, dealing with the firearms problem. The firearm problem isn't the legally vetted and licensed firearm owners; it's the legal guns that are coming across the border.
So what do you think the government really needs to do when it comes to gun laws then? Maybe going after more the criminals and illegal guns crossing the border, the handguns from the United States?
You know, I think that's where we need to do it, because I think majority of the guns used in the crimes are, you know, are legally acquired or smuggled across the border and aren't the ones that are possessed by, you know, legally licensed and vetted landowners that store them safely. So I just really think it's, you know, maybe to appease the people that are uneducated about guns and gun owners and the proper use of guns. And, you know, they've seen probably a lot of people, the only access or what they've seen from firearms is, you know, in the movies, you know, and where it's used in war or crimes and stuff like that. And that's the only thing that they're seeing guns being used as. So they're viewed as something that is bad, I think.
Montreal Canadiens goaltender Carey Price took to social media and it showed a picture of him in his camo, and he's holding a shotgun saying, listen, I'm not a criminal, I'm a hunter, and these gun laws are not going to do the trick. Like, he's not happy about it. So would you agree with Carey Price that going after, you know, a lot of the hunters with the shotguns is not the way to go?
Yeah, absolutely it is, because, you know, I think you're chasing the wrong problem here, you know, because if they could let us really know what the true statistics are of firearms used in crimes, you know, by properly licensed and vetted and stored firearms, I bet you it's very, very minimal. So, you know, with that being said, then, you know, focus the time and the money into the real problem, which I'm guessing is the legal firearms coming across the border.
Some people say that, you know, hunting, that's more the 18 and 1900s, people out hunting for their food all the time. It's not really as prevalent in today's society. What are your thoughts?
Well, it has become that way because, we're very reliant on, food producers out there, doing it for us and putting it in the store for us. And, we've got it pretty easy this day and age compared to, the thousands of years of our ancestry that's had to, go across the land and find their own food. Here it's basically a one-stop shop in a supermarket and you got all you need. So, we are really removed from it nowadays, but there are so many good things that come from hunting. It's not just, getting your own meat out there. It's time spent in nature. It's time spent with family and friends. And, if you have an appreciation for nature, we'll be able to keep it too. So there's many benefits from hunting, aside from just getting your own meat.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the benefits, specifically, Andre, when it comes to hanging out with your family. Maybe you take your son or your daughter with you, or maybe husband and wife go out and hunting. Let's talk about some of those benefits then. It's almost like, I guess, when you go fishing, right? Take the family out fishing, it's a bonding time, bonding experience.
Well, and that's a huge thing nowadays. I think, nowadays so many people are busy doing things, whether it's on a device or a screen or something like that. And, life is so busy with stuff, but there's so many things we can learn from nature, and it can actually be a good reset for people to spend time in nature, and it gives you more appreciation for, the other people's in your life and things, just in general, because everything in nature is very real. Sometimes in the civilized world, we don't know what's real, what's not. And, spending time in nature, there's a lot to show you out there, and it's good for kids to actually, get out and have an appreciation for what there is to offer out there.
So as a hunter yourself, what do you like to hunt? Is it elk, moose, deer? What do you like?
Well, as a hunter, everybody's got their preference. For me, it's something that, really, challenges me just as far as not just the animal, but also in the environment they live in. I really enjoy sheep hunting, and sheep hunting will take you to some extreme country in the mountains, where you're totally removed from going to a, nice warm bed at night and hanging out at the restaurant after a long day's hunting. You got to provide for yourself and you got to deal with the elements out there. And that part of the challenge, I think, is really where the bigger part of the reward comes, that you feel very rewarded at the end of the day, whether you're successful or not, but that you've just been out there, and, it's very humbling for sure.
What game animals do you think make for some of the best hunts?
Well, I think for most people, in general, I would say, your deer and your elk hunts are probably, because they're very, the populations are very good on the deer and elk there. It just makes it for lots of opportunity, would make for, a good time for especially new hunters or young hunters, right? Where if there's lots of animals out there, means there's maybe more opportunity. It keeps people engaged because there's a lot of opportunities out there for them to, hunt and try their skills at hunting, So, those are probably obviously the more popular ones that I think, most people in Alberta are going to be hunting if they do go their first hunt.
What are your thoughts on some of the big game hunters over in different countries in Africa where they're hunting lions or even elephants, especially people that want to, I guess, maybe kill the elephants for the tusks, for the ivory? What are your thoughts on those types of hunts?
Well, I think in the bigger scheme of things, the big picture of things, if there's not a value put on something, there won't be an appreciation for it. If you don't put a value on nature and expose our kids to nature, how can we expect them to preserve it? And that same goes with the animals across the world. If there is no value on it, people aren't going to appreciate it, and they're going to abuse it or extort it or whatever how. And, at the end of the day, we're going to lose it if we don't take care of these things. So, there's many different views on hunting across the board, whether it's for meat or for trophy, all at the end of the day. But probably one of the biggest contributors, to help the environment and to help these animals survive are hunter dollars. Hunter dollars, put so much money into the system, whether it's through license sales or through auctions, fundraiser, all stuff. And these are the ones that definitely are the dollars that help conserve these animals and the habitat they live in.
Have you seen changes in the game animal population over the years? What are you really seeing right now?
Well, it all ebbs and flows for sure, and obviously there's many different variables that affects the population. Obviously, winter kill, in this part of the world, as well as disease and all stuff. Definitely, that's what controls animals before even man had any hand in controlling it. So those are the things that are, definitely take a role in the population's strengths or weaknesses. And, it all just seems like it goes in cycles. But, I know the game, people that are trying to manage the game are doing the best they can. It's a big undertaking, and my hat's off them for doing it. But, to be able to get a good handle on a huge population of animals that, stretches across the province of Alberta or Canada or something like that, it's definitely a challenging job to be able to manage it properly between those factors of, starvation and disease, as well as hunting pressure.
So, Andre, traditionally, when is the hunting season here in Alberta?
Well, traditionally, the hunting season in Alberta is in the fall. So basically, some things will start in August and then go through December. It all depends on the species and the areas, and obviously the seasons that have been set by the game management people.
Do you have a favorite region of Alberta for hunting, or maybe in Saskatchewan or BC?
Well, I'm more of an open country person, but also do like the mountains. I've spent a lot of time guiding through Western Canada and a lot of time spent in the mountains. And I just, the mountains are probably my favorite spot for sure. Where we live down here in southwestern Alberta, it's such an amazing place to hunt. It's not just the animals, but it's the location you're in. If you can, just take a moment and see what's out there, from the grass in front of your feet to the mountains in the background, I don't think we live in a much prettier place in the world, that's for sure.
Well, we talked about the federal government auto on Bill C-21, and many hunters are not happy with it right now, the potential gun ban bill with a lot of the rifles, the hunting rifles, the shotguns. What about the province? Has the provincial government been helpful or more of a hindrance to hunters?
Well, I think, Alberta has been one place it seems like, our voice seems to be heard, maybe a little bit more than other provinces. And maybe just because we have, a lot of people living in rural areas and live in the rural way of life. And it's good to see that, Alberta's kind of stepping up and speaking out to the federal government about, how this new laws don't really make sense. It's just, going to use a lot of extra resources, if this law is implemented, to, get these firearms out of the, legal owners. And, and when you do that, it's just going to take away from other parts that are maybe more important, for our law enforcement to be focusing on.
It sounds like you like to spend a lot of time out in the rural areas, the backcountry. So, Andre, why do you think Albertans need to spend more time in the wild lands of our province?
Well, I think it's just, it's a good reality check. Again, it's if you let it be, it's a very humbling experience to be out there because everything in nature is real, right? If it's raining, you got to put a rain jacket on. All these things. There's examples out there that you just can't escape from it or hide from it by paying somebody to do it or fixing it on your phone or whatever it is. And I really think the more people that can go out and do that, whether you're canoeing, you're biking, you're hiking, you're horseback riding, trying to go out and hire a guide that can take you out of these places and get somewhere where you're away from the noise. And then the more people that do it, the more people are going to be willing to try to preserve this and try to understand that it's very, very important, for our future generations to be able to use this as much as we have and our past generations have as well.
Andre, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have when it comes to hunting?
Well, I think the biggest misconceptions people have come to hunting is because it seems like we're very removed from it nowadays, that we don't need it to survive because other people are providing the things that we need to survive nowadays. So I think, people just, unfortunately, sometimes, hunting is portrayed in the wrong way. And, there's photos out there and there's things that are said, that, for the ordinary person that isn't around it could seem very, very abrasive, I guess. And, that's just the way it is type deal. But I think people quickly forget that, many of our generation in the past, that's the only way that they have survived, and it was put on this earth for us, to utilize and for us to be able to, feed our families and all that kind of stuff. And, it's a great way to do that because, you're 100% organic meat. And as well, it's a great time to spend outside with your family.
Outside of the challenges being offered by Bill C-21, what other issues are there when it comes to hunting in the 21st century?
Well, I think that one of the biggest things is concern is, the encroachment of, of cities and us humans on the habitat of the animals. And unfortunately, the animals always lose in this situation, because they kept on getting pushed out of their homes into other places, which congregates them. And then that's when your situations can happen when there's disease spread and stuff like that too. But, every one of us on this earth has displaced some form of wildlife. We have our homes here, we have our roads, we have our cities, we have our towns. We have all played a role in displacing this wildlife and congregating them into areas. And I think that is probably the biggest threat that we have to the wildlife in North America right now.
So Andre, before I let you go, what are some of the biggest rewards that you find when it comes to hunting, you personally?
Well, in my line of work, I've been doing this since I've been out of school. So it's been a long time. I won't quite tell you how long it's been, but it's been a long time, The amazing thing is that, it pulls people out of their regular environment. And quite often nowadays, we are so busy and everybody says they don't have time, all this stuff. And, people come out and get a breath of fresh air and, spend some time in nature and around wildlife. And it brings on a whole new attitude for them. And it's a breath, it's pretty awesome to see that people really do appreciate it. And I think people could really do more of it, but we only have so much time once again. But the people that actually take the time to do this stuff, it's very, very rewarding. And, it's been very rewarding for me to be able to expose so many people to this or be able to take people out on these different adventures and show them what it's all about and educate them about it, just so they can pass that on to their family and their friends and, hopefully preserve this for future generations.
Andre Van Hilton with Willow Creek Outfitters, thanks so much for joining us today from just outside of Stavely, Alberta.
Thank you.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless and thanks for watching.